Hi friends, David here from Above AVL and Learn Christmas Lighting, and today I want to tackle a question that I've seen a lot lately online, and it involves using speakers in your show. So it's kind of a two-parter, just in the sense there's kind of two questions people ask a lot, and one including that my wife was recently asking me the question of for a Halloween show. She says, "Hey, when people are trick-or-treating around, this is the first question, how can we put out a speaker so they can listen?" Right? Because if you're like me, you've tried putting out like an FM radio and it's just, it's not as good as it could be, right? Then on the other side, question two that people have is when I'm setting up my display, what's a good way that I can just hear what's going on? Being that I don't have my car out there, I'm not going to leave my car stereo running, for hours on end when I'm setting up, troubleshooting my display. I want to see what song we're on, listen to it, see if things are working. How can I do that? In this video, we're going to cover just that. So this is really a two-parter. So the first part is if you're listening on FM and just, doing stuff in your yard testing, you could put a speaker out there. But honestly, more often than not, I just get a small FM radio. This is the one we have. And these little things are awesome. Like I used to have a AA battery powered one, but now these have a direct USB-C plug-in and you could just turn that thing up, walk around the yard with it, be good to go. So that was question two. Question one is a little more confusing, right? Because if you go and look at outdoor speakers and you're thinking like, okay, I want to put some speakers out for the trick-or-treaters, or I want to put some speakers out for, whomever, for, we have a lot of people come walk by our display, or it's a commercial installation where people aren't tuning into FM. That's when you want to step it up a notch. And so a lot of people get confused because if you go like to Amazon, the good old rainforest, and type in outdoor speaker, you're going to get a lot of things like this, right? Like everything these days is a Bluetooth speaker. But as you might know, if you work with a Christmas light display, Bluetooth speakers are generally a poor idea because they introduce delay. And so the effects that you slaved over in X-Lights to make just perfect for your show are not going to line up perfect or even all that close. And it doesn't look good. Okay. So what we want to talk about here is how do we get audio to a speaker? What kind of speaker do we need? And then what should you get? So step one. For most people's displays, you've got either a Raspberry Pi microcomputer or you've got a controller and it's got an audio output, right? And that audio output is going to plug into your FM transmitter and transmit the signal to everything out in your display. Okay. So simply put, if you want to then also have a speaker, all you really need is, we'll go back to the old Amazon. Oops. And we're just going to type in, just a little headphone splitter, right? You've probably seen these before, nice and simple. So little headphone splitters can be great. Just a simple little, plugs in to the device, the controller, and has two sets of headphone outputs for your FM transmitter as well as your speaker. Then it brings up the question, what kind of speaker, right? So it kind of depends on what you're looking for and how long-term of a solution and how good of a solution you want. Okay. You could put just about any speaker with a plug on it out in the yard. Like, for example, I just have, we'll go back to the old rainforest here, the old Amazon. I just have one of these little amplifiers, looks like one of these, oops, over here. I have an even cheaper one. I have one of those Leap Eye brand ones, but just, let's see if that'll come up. I just have one of these little throwaway amplifiers. Yeah, one of these, that you can just plug in a, like desktop, like a shelf speaker into and be good to go. And that will honestly work great. In general, when you're working with things like this, you want to keep the headphone jack length, the extension, the headphone extension you use fairly short, like I usually say under 15 feet. But then the speaker wire, you can go pretty far with that in the typical yard and be okay. Little guys like this, just have a simple volume control on them, which is great. Just a simple audio input. This one, for example, it looks like it has both RCA and a headphone jack, but there's adapters either way. That's not complicated. And then there's speaker outputs, right? There's left and right. Of course, if your music has, stereo to it, you'll definitely want a left and a right speaker for the people to listen. And you can hook them up and run, 20 watts or 12 watts max at 8 ohms, and which is again for if people are pretty close to something, that can be fine. If you're looking to step it up from something like this, then you probably just want to go with like a stereo receiver. Again, this is stuff that's temporary because, this is not waterproof, right? A typical, like a bookshelf speaker, as they're often called, things like this. A lot of these actually sound really quite good these days. This one, again, it has Bluetooth, but you don't want to use the Bluetooth. You want to plug in, and so be on the watch out for that. But I bet you it has a plug. Yeah, it's totally got a plug as well too. So you can plug in with an audio cable. And these are great. They're not waterproof. So, this is something to use for a single night while you're out doing your Halloween, a couple nights before Christmas. If it's not raining, you can put them out, etc. If you want to take it to the next level above that, then you're going to want to get waterproof stuff. Okay, so if you type in outdoor speakers, you're going to see things like these dual speakers. They're going to be actually pretty powerful little speakers. And there's a lot of options in the kind of outdoor speaker realm. This is the kind of thing that, you're going to want to feed it. It says 100-watt max. So you probably want to feed it. Typically, you go for about half of max with an amplifier size. So you want like a 50-watt amplifier in that case. And then you're going to be able to drive this no problem. Your amplifiers, more often than not, are not going to be waterproof. So you can waterproof them with something like a controller box, like a Rubbermaid box, etc., or just have the amplifier inside, right? And then run out to these, and these guys are waterproof. They're an outdoor speaker, so you can leave them outside. You could even hang them off your house and have speakers all the time. But the biggest keys really are just, having coming out of the headphone jack on your Raspberry Pi or controller, splitting it. If you're using an amplifier or a powered speaker that has an amplifier in it, you want it to plug into the same outlet usually as your controller and your FM transmitter. If you don't do this, you can get what are called ground loops, which is just a buzz throughout everything, and you don't want that. Okay. Other than that, it's really not that hard. The biggest thing is just to avoid all the stuff out there that is USB or Bluetooth or anything digital sounding. Keep it simple, keep it fairly analog, and you should be good to go and just be able to get some great stuff out there. You can obviously do like the rock speakers with outdoor speakers, things like that. Get those out into your yard. And if you are looking to, go even bigger and cover, hundreds of yards, multiple miles, etc., like in a commercial display, we help people out with that at Above AVL all the time too. In that case, you kind of go up to what's called a 70 or 100-volt system. They can work really great, but you do have to specify them correctly. And we do a fair amount of these, so we know what we're doing. So if you need help with that, head over to our store. If you're new to holiday lighting and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to put speakers outside, just remember, in order to be friendly with the neighbors, if you're putting speakers outside, it's better to put more small speakers than a few big loud speakers, right? Small speakers close to the intended audience, turned up to a level that's not too high, is going to generally be much better for the neighbors, much better for your own sanity, etc. And there are, folks who've done tutorials on push to talk buttons, like push to hear the music buttons, and those can be really great as well. They're kind of an addition to this. So hopefully this has helped you kind of understand what you need if you want to have music outside in your display all the time, just sometimes, just for some special occasions, or just when you're setting up. The gear you need is a little bit different depending on exactly what you're going with, but overall, it's really not all that difficult. You just got to get the right stuff. So if you're new to Christmas lighting, head over to learnchristmaslighting.com, grab our free guide, the 4 things I really wish I knew before I began in this hobby. Gosh, I wish I knew those things. And then we will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.